Welcome back, everyone. We have got to the final session on day one of the second edition of WFS Live. If you've made it through to this point, fantastic effort, and it's great to have you with us. And especially because we were just talking off air with our next guests on our panel, this day is really themed along the lines of what can football do to create a better world. And riffs on those themes, variations on those themes. And certainly I think, this last panel will really bring that home to you. It's based on the topic, the modern athlete, players' activism and success beyond the pitch. And it is in collaboration with Common Goal, who we're thrilled to be working with this time around here at WFS Live, very, very closely indeed. Just to also say, in terms of watching any of today's sessions, again, if you missed any of them, don't worry, because they're going to be available for you on this Swapcard platform 24 hours after they were originally broadcast. If you've got any friends or family who aren't signed up to WFS Live, but you'd like them to see what we're doing here, tell them about the Live Now Global platform. It's available on most of the usual social networks, Twitter, Facebook, also Instagram and LinkedIn. That's the way that they can see it. And in any case, in around a week or so's time, once the dust has settled on WFS Live 2, we'll put it on our YouTube channel as well. So plenty of ways to catch up on anything that you might have missed. Now, when you think about activism in sport, I suppose there are certain examples that are really etched into our brains from the past. Go back to the 1968 Olympics, for example, and the human rights salute, also known in quarters as the Black Power salute, when two African-American sprinters, Tommy Smith and John Carlos, raised a black-gloved fist during the national anthem for the United States. And then the heavyweight boxing champion himself, one of the greatest in the world, Muhammad Ali, who refused to be drafted into the army because of his religious beliefs and how he thought that the cause of the war didn't align with them. And then we've also mentioned Billie Jean King, who was an activist for gender equality in tennis, and many, many more down the years, and some very recently as well. Now, not all activism has to be on this scale, but when you look at the efforts of Marcus Rashford in particular in this country, it goes to show that many more could really follow his example with the tools and the platforms that we have here in this day and age. So how does it begin? How do you discover your own purpose? We've heard that word a lot today, haven't we? How do you make a meaningful difference? How do you positively alter the perception of footballers so that the activism itself is taken seriously? How important is education on this theme? Not just having it, but giving it. And does it also help what redefines success, if success isn't just solely based on the performance on the pitch and the achievements on the field of play? So let's discuss these topics and more in this session entitled The Modern Athlete, Players' Activism and Success Beyond the Pitch, in collaboration with Common Goal. And here is your final panel of the day. It's my great pleasure to welcome them. The current FC Nordsjælland and former Arsenal defender Johan Djourou, the current Juventus FC midfielder Sofie Junge Pedersen, and the current Manchester United midfielder Juan. And as your moderator, Chief Culture Officer at the Right to Dream Group, Pippa Grange. Pippa, you have a stellar trio of speakers. You really do. Very much looking forward to what you and they have to say. Take it away.
Thank you so much, David. It's really lovely to be with you here. And thanks for the invitation to moderate this. I feel like I lucked out with the guests that we have on today. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I've had the pleasure of listening into a few of the topics already today, and you're right, David, the conversation around purpose has been hot today, and I think purpose and activism and athlete purpose and activism are actually hot topics at the minute. So where some of the conversation across the day has been thinking about how we strategically approach something like purpose, something like activism in athletes, what I hope this conversation can add to that conversation is a little bit more about how do we make that personal, not just strategic. So for me, as Chief Culture Officer at Right to Dream, and that includes FC Nordsjælland in Denmark as part of our group, one of the things that is really important is making sure that we help people uncover purpose, uncover the things that they care enough about to want to be an activist on that topic. And I think it's super important that we think about this from a personal, not just a strategic organizational perspective. So that's what we want to dive into a little bit today, and hopefully add some layers to the thinking about how do you make that happen? How do you keep that part of everyday life? How does it not have to be grand and heroic? Sometimes when we think about activism, we think placards and protests, we think massive podium moments and critical speeches that give you goosebumps, or we think about those iconic moments as David just mentioned, and in more recent memory, perhaps Colin Kaepernick taking a knee, and things that have changed the social landscape in some way. But for me, when I think about activism, I think about the act part of that. And how do we really help people find out what's so compelling to them, so close to their authentic values that they want to take action on that rather than impose something more broadly. So I'll open up introducing our panel. David's given you an overview, but maybe you guys might like to just say a couple of words yourselves. I'll start with you, Johan, about what activism even means to you when it comes to yourself as a professional and a person.
So for me, it means a lot because I had the chance to be, first of all, adopted when I was a young kid. I was born from an African mother and I was adopted from a European mother that was in Switzerland. So straight away, I had the chance to see the difference of being in Africa and then being in Europe. And I always thought that, why me? And the activism was to be active, to give back and to show something different to people in Africa, around the world, was always been with me as a young age. And that's why as well, as soon as I got and I made money, I wanted to give back something to Africa, and I made a foundation for, not for footballers, but just for kids to get their own educations, to have the chance to go to school and to become someone in life with my agent, because in Africa, or in, let's say, in country where you have less possibility, like life starts at a very young age, and you become a woman and you're only a kid, you become a man and you're only 5 or 6 years old. And we wanted really to give those kids a chance to grow up as normal and to have a normal chance in life. So that's why I think activism is for me, and that's why I want to be active.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Sofie, what has activism meant for you as a professional and as a person?
Activism for me is also, as you said, like taking action, not just talking about what is good to do, but actually act on the knowledge that we already have. And for me, it's both the bigger things. I'm involved in some social projects, football project in Ghana, for example. And that's more of a bigger kind of activism for me, but also the smaller things in the everyday life, like not eating meat, as we all know is not good for our planet. Or paying aircraft compensation and sort my waste and stuff like that. So it's both the bigger things, but also the smaller things that I can do every day.
Fantastic. Thank you. And Juan, how about you? You almost need no introduction on this, but how about you tell us what activism has meant for you as a person and as a professional?
Yeah, first of all, it's a pleasure for me to be here with you, Johan, with Sofie and Pipa. It's great to share this panel with fellow Common Goal teammates and with you, Pipa, which are doing an incredible job. So, they have said it perfectly. For me, activism is not only a specific action from time to time, but a daily routine. Making some daily steps that each of us can make to try to make this world a better place. And like Johan and Sofie said, we are trying to do it through the sport that we love, through football. And that's why, for example, we started the movement Common Goal. We know how many people around the world loves football as a professional sport, but we also realized that football is a way of living for many people and escape, a social tool for change. And that's why through Common Goal we are trying to act and walk the talk and connect the two worlds of football as we know it, which is the professional football world, which Johan, Sofie and myself and yourself, Pipa, are lucky to live from, but also football and sport as a social tool for change and as a platform to give people the ability to control their future and have opportunities that we all had thanks to the sport.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I think there's a few in what each of you say there. There's some really rich material for us to unpack. And I'd like to start to dig a little bit deeper with you, if I can, Sofie. I'm interested in thinking about this idea of you and your authentic self, and how has finding out more about who you are as a person made you more aware, made you more purpose-driven as an athlete?
I would rather say that who I am and like my values, that defines how I'm purpose-driven. Because I have, of course, I have my goals for the football pitch. I want to win titles with Juventus and the national team. But I think you can do that in many ways. And as I have talked to my mental coach about, I think I could be able to achieve my dreams on the football pitch by being a very selfish person. But I don't want to be a selfish person. So I have defined some values for myself. And one of those 3 values that I have and I try to act on is to be a contributing person, meaning that on the way to achieve my goals on the football pitch, I also want to help others. So that's why I'm also involved in these social projects. That's a way for me to express that value, to be a contributing person. So I think I would say that there are many ways to be purpose-driven, and of course people have different purposes. But I think whether your purpose is to win titles or you want to earn a lot of money, then the most important thing is how you want to achieve those goals.
Yeah, I love that answer. That's fantastic. But I can't leave it there. I need to know what your other 2 values are.
It's hardworking and have courage. But hardworking both on the pitch, but also in the projects that I'm doing. I want to look myself in the mirror and say that I have done all that I can, and then be courage. Have the courage to do a lot of things that you're not sure about.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful, and again, just a real clear demonstration of how you tie your understanding of yourself, your self-knowledge, to the way that you live, not just the way that you play or the way that you act off the field, but the way that you live, how that whole thing comes together. Just fantastic. Thank you. Johan, can I come back to you for the second question? What does activism mean in the small everyday ways as well as in the grand moments for you?
So for me, I think that it's very important to define that the moment and the exchange that you have with people, for me, is more important than just let's say support with any kind of money or object. I think that what I realize all through my career is that being active in some cases, but the moment when you see and you exchange something with someone or with some people, you will see a totally different light coming out of their eyes. And I think that in today, my goal was always to try and bring out the sun of the people. That could be with confidence, with positivity, or with experience, because I think that we had the chance to, as Juan said at the beginning, to be able to live our dream. But not everyone has the chance to do the same in this world. And I think that we are such, for example, I don't like this word, but like sometimes icon or idols for some of those people, that I think it's important to share those moments and not just support them from the distance, but be able to sit with them and to discuss and to ask them questions, to make them feel important. And I do the same with my kids, for example. I think it's a great tool to have kids because you have to make them feel important, because the life's going to be hard, and you have to make them feel confident. They have to be loved, and they have to feel that, you know, they have a purpose in life when they grow up.
So achievable for anybody. You can start anywhere with that, right? But that idea of helping somebody unlock their positivity, their potential, their own, bringing out the sunshine in each person. That's a really lovely way of putting it. Yeah. And Juan, if I can come to you, I'm interested in thinking about how somebody even starts to act in the face of what sometimes feels like overwhelming social or planetary challenges. And of course, Common Goal has created the platform to be able to do this. But I'm curious what guidance you might give to individuals thinking about, you know, looking out of their window and seeing such enormous challenges in front of us and thinking, how do I even start to take action?
Yeah, I think it's completely right what you're saying there. I think sometimes the goals might seem too far and too general, but I think it's very important to realize, we as a players and every citizen of this world, that by doing our bit, by helping in whatever way we can on a daily basis, we actually are walking the talk and making a change. And as little as it can feel, by starting each of all of us towards the same direction, we will contribute and we will make a big change. I can make a football comparison if you want, which is, if Johan, Sofie, and myself, we want to win a league, we know it's going to take so many games to do that, and it might seem so far. But if we focus on each game and if focus on what we have in front of us every single day, we can reach the goal better, and I'm sure that we will. So sometimes it can feel too far and it can feel too difficult, but I think we all have the possibility and the capacity to actually do things every single day. It doesn't matter if what you're fighting for is climate change, it doesn't matter if what you're fighting for is gender equality. You can also, and every single day, act and do something that can take you to your objective. And that's what we did in Common Goal. I understand that my 1% of my salary is not going to help a lot, but by joining forces and acting as a team and joining different 1%, we're going to make an impact that only by myself or Johan himself or Sofie herself, they couldn't do alone. So I think it's very important for people to understand that by acting together and as a team, we can achieve our goals.
Yeah, fantastic points. It's acting together and that sense of community or solidarity on something. But also, I love that guidance about the comparison, the football comparison or metaphor, that you have to recognize that things don't change overnight, and you do need to build and take each step consistently. And it's probably only in the rearview mirror at the end of at the end of life, we'll look back and think about the legacy that was created through all of those small moments of action or activism where we chose one choice over another, that makes the real difference. So
yeah,
great, thank you.
For sure.
Thank you so much, Juan, for that. There was quite a lot of conversation today in other panels about the way that purpose is seen by footballers, or purpose or activism is seen by footballers, and the way that footballers are seen. And I'm curious, Johan, to come back to you and think about what do you feel are some of those old ideas about football and footballers that we need to let go, and that we can help get rid of, so that there is a clearer path forward for a brighter future when it comes to players being involved in being active in social life outside, in social purpose outside of the professional field of play?
I think this is always difficult to take, and I find it even shameful sometimes to be honest, because I think that what is sad about it is that a lot of people forget that we are human beings too, and that we have feelings, that we have emotions, and that we have as well the right to say if something is not okay. For example, I will take the NBA players. that just didn't play in a bubble because of the racism or the gender problems that was in America. You can take Ken Prince as well, who had issues, and I think this is always difficult because I think that we should have our say, and I think that it's even better when we come all together, like for example the NBA players did, or the NFL players as well. Some players put the knee down to show support to their teammates, and I think it's as common goal. It's a global goal and it's a common goal. I don't think that one, as Juan said before, can change anything, but that if everyone doesn't have to agree with it all the time, but if there is the support and the love to go into a direction, I think that we become relevant. And I think that this image needs to change, that footballers or athletes are just robots and they're there to get the points or to win the league and they cannot have feelings. I think that's totally wrong, because at the end of the day, we play with our emotions. When we are on the pitch, we play with what we have in our guts and in our hearts. We give everything to try and win and to make the people that follow us happy. So we definitely have hearts and feelings.
Most definitely you do. And this links with a question that came from an audience member as well about how you feel about where clubs have quite a large say in what a player is able to express, where a club might block an opinion that an athlete wants to share, or a social media position, or a platform that they want to get involved in. What are your thoughts, all three of you? What are your thoughts on that? Shall I start with you, Sofie?
Sure.
So far, I haven't experienced that my club doesn't want me to say something that I want to say. I think if you have good arguments for what you want to say, then I haven't tried to. My team want to prevent me from saying something, but so I hope it continues like that.
Yeah. Juan, or do you have something to add on that point?
No, I think we all have to be, of course, responsible for our opinions and for our actions. And I understand that football clubs, as organizations in which, of course, we players play for, they can advise, especially to be careful nowadays. You know how social media can play sometimes, and some things can be misinterpreted and things like that. So I think it's very important, especially from the academies of football clubs and for younger players, to actually be aware of how dangerous it can be, social media in some ways. But that doesn't take away of the ability and the capacity that we have, as Johan said before, not only as a football players but as a human beings, to stand up for what we believe and to say what we feel like we have to say without trying to disrespect anyone. And I haven't experienced, like Sophie said, nothing from any club trying to limit my comments or anything like that. So I think a fine balance between being responsible for what you say and have the freedom to say whatever you feel, but also know the dangers of social media nowadays and be actually responsible and careful with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Johan, anything to add?
No, I think I agree with Juan. I think that it can be taken to different scales, and I think that is always tricky when a club, because I think that I will say that an individual always have his right and should be respected for who he is, but I think that the club in those days, as one said, try and protect the players. I haven't, maybe we've seen in other sports, or I haven't actually experienced that the team or the organization didn't support their players because he went against their rules or their views. But I think that in today's world, humans should have their right, but of course they should be responsible. of what they say and what the message they want to bring outside to the world. Because as Juan rightly said, with social media today, everything can be taken out of proportion and can have some very bad influences.
So perhaps one of the things that we might think about as a football community is that how we help people say what matters to them. So, you know, so that the person, the player that wants to speak is a little bit less exposed, is more guided, who feels supported, but we're actually helping them craft the message that they want to share. That would be an interesting way of thinking about, you know, how we help the modern athlete be an activist in a way that is meaningful and gets a message across and lowers the risk a little bit, because, you know, it is... it's not necessarily very straightforward and there are consequences, as we've heard throughout the day today with some athletes who have raised their voice on difficult issues. It can be consequential. So something as a football community to consider perhaps how we help people do that. So thank you. They're great. They're really great thoughts. If I can come back to you, Juan, to talk about this, David, when he introduced the discussion today, he talked about sort of redefining success, and that's something that's really important for us at Right to Dream Group. We think about this a lot, but what does being an activist add to your personal sense of success? How does it change your sense of success?
Well, actually, the word itself, success, is not a word that I really love, because sometimes it's related with material success, with, in case of football, trophy success, and for me, it has 100 different interpretations, in which, from a personal point of view, go beyond the football pitch. So, in my personal case, being part of Common Goal, being part of amazing people like Johan and Sofie, gives me really a deeper meaning of what being a football player is. I have been lucky enough to play for a number of years now as a professional football player and win trophies and live incredible experiences thanks to football. But to be able to be part of a movement which is trying to connect football and use football, the power of football, as a social tool for change, I feel that it's creating a legacy that after we stop playing football, all of the Common Goal members, we will feel proud that we have started a way in which people can actually help through football, and we have created a platform in which it doesn't matter what level of football do you play, it doesn't matter if you're a fan or a journalist or a psychologist like you are, you can join what we want to create, the biggest club in the world, and it gives me an incredible sense of pride, of hope, and of passion for what I do on the pitch, but especially off the pitch. When I see, like David said before, teammates like Marcus Rashford or Raheem Sterling or Hector Bellerin doing incredible things, not with Common Goal, but with incredible purposes, it gives me hope, because I think football players, we are realizing the platform that we have, the ability that we have to reach to people and to communicate our values. So definitely being part of Common Goal has given me a bigger and deeper meaning of what being a football player is, beyond the trophies, beyond the wins, the defeats, and the goals. And I hope that Johan, Sofie, and the rest of the teammates of Common Goal feel the same, because it's actually a feeling of we are doing something really important, and hopefully in the future we will look back and see that football has done their bit to try to create a more fair society.
I love that. That's you know, something I have talked about myself, is that success has to be felt as well as achieved. And when you use words like pride, you know, you absolutely experience the success. It's not just something on the scoreboard. So hopefully by, you know, the time you've lived a good life as a professional and as a human being, then that idea of success is something that you really feel in your bones. So it's that's a lovely way of putting it. Thank you. Do either of you, Sofie or Johan, want to add to that of what success, you know, how activism broadens your sense of success as a human being?
Yeah, for me, as Juan said, that when I join a movement like Common Goal and do social activities, I feel like my title as a professional football player, it has a bigger meaning. And when I'm training so much and thinking about so much about how I can become a better football player tomorrow, then it has a bigger meaning, and I'm doing that for more than just myself, and that's an amazing feeling, and I'm really happy to be proud, be part of Common Goal.
Yeah, it's, I agree. And that sort of idea of a return on purpose, it's all about meaning. You know, it's you don't have to compromise success on the scoreboard and on the pitch, or being a great person and an activist. That they can be achieved together. That success is meshing those two things together in a way that really feels amazing, as well as looks amazing on in terms of outcomes and the things you've been able to achieve throughout your career. So great answer. Thank you. Anything else from you, Johan, on that point?
Yeah, I think they both pretty covered everything. But what I would add is that I really like the sense of evolution and progression, and I think that we all been young and we all then progress into our craft, and obviously we made a career out of it. But I think that for normal people and the people that are less fortunate, to have the chance to glow and to blow into with more confidence into what they do, and to believe that the let's say the success, or let's say the little steps they will make in the right direction will bring them to a kind of success, of pride. It's very important to actually feel that, you know, to want to progress as a human being. And for me, I think that during my career is something that I really took seriously, is the progression of my own personality, and not only on the pitch. And I think it helped me as well to understand who I really was. And I think that is very important for the people to really understand who they are first, and then it can always become easier.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Okay, I'll come back to Sofie. And I'm wondering if there's anything that you can share about how you think your moment in the sun as a professional athlete. We know it's a short career as an athlete, even if it's a really super successful career, it's short. And how do you think your moment in the sun as a professional player can bring out the best in humanity?
First, I hope that as a female football player, I hope I can be a role model for girls and women, and show them that football is for everybody. It's not only a sport for men, it's also for girls and women. So I hope I can, together with all other female football players, can show that it's actually something you can do. And the project I have in Ghana I'm working with, I see how much it means to the girls there to play football. I just hope that that more and more girls and women will feel like, I want to play football as well, and will enjoy it. And then another thing is, I think that a lot of people look at the professional football world with some kind of contempt, that they hear about all the huge salaries, the huge transfer amounts. And I hope I can be part of pushing forward movements like Common Goal and Football for Climate and other good movements, where we stand together as professional football players and try to show that the huge economy within the football world can be used to make huge changes. So that's two things I hope I can contribute with.
Yeah, and I'm sure you already are in many ways, Sofie. It's interesting you say that. There's a live poll just came through that was saying that 48% of people thought that the thing that could change activism most was sort of clubs and leagues they play for supporting their activism. But then 33% of people also said that if the media generated some more content around the human side of athletes and of sport, rather than that sort of idea of just sport just being what we see, the product on the pitch, and not telling the stories of how much is already there and already been done, and that rich, wonderful sense of bringing out the best in other people, and how you're using your moment in the sun and how you're seeing success, then, to encourage the broader football family, including the media, to really look for and tell those stories, because I think that goes a very long way to helping people feel that they can be an activist. So sort of one final thing I'd love to explore, if I can, if all three of you have a few words of guidance for a young athlete, perhaps, who maybe is a little afraid of taking the risk of stepping out there and owning that part of being an activist within their football persona. What guidance might you give them? I'll start with you, Johan, if I may.
I think it's always it depends on the people you have around. I think that's very important to me, is that the support and the belief that you have in the people next to you. It's a very big thing on the foundation. But what I will say is that you should always, what you feel, you should express. I think that's something that I've learned as well growing up, is that there is never a bad question or bad things that you could say if it's in you. I think that you have the influence today to not speak, to listen and be, let's say, follow. Like most of the time, we have to be followers. And I think that each or one on this world can be a leader. They can lead their own personality. And I think that's very important, first of all, to be leading your own self to help others.
Mm-hmm. Great advice. That's fantastic. Juan, what about you? What would be your guidance for a young athlete thinking about this and feeling a little bit of trepidation about stepping into activism?
Well, first of all, I will tell him or her that they have to get as much information as they can about the matter that they're going to try to speak about. Everyone has the ability and the opportunity to express their opinions, but I think if it's an informed opinion based in data, based in actually a lot of articles that you can find, so it's much better. And so I will advise that if you are going to fight for a cause, just learn as much as you can about that cause, so you can be better informed when you speak about it. And of course, like Johan said, then don't be afraid of speak up and stand up for your values, because we live now in a society. I have the impression that everyone is less afraid to say what they believe. Everyone is more understanding of what others have to say. But yes, if you have an informed opinion about something, I think it has much more value. And so I would advise to be curious and learn as much as you can about the cause that you're fighting for.
Fantastic. Great. And Sofie?
Now we are only talking about activism as speaking up, but as we have been talking about in this panel, activism is also the acts that you can do every day. Mm-hmm. So if you're afraid of speaking up, then I think joining a social project in any way, it could be common goal. It could also be, there are many social projects if you just look around yourself. And yeah, that's a place you can go and make a change for people, refugees or whoever needs help. But then you can start there, and then probably you will feel confident later to speak up about it.
Yeah, I agree. And my experience is I've met hundreds of athletes in different sports over the last 20 years or so, and I've always seen much more appetite to do this kind of work and to get involved in this kind of expression of values, whether it's speaking up or being involved in projects. But, I think that there are a few things that maybe get in the way of athletes being feeling confident about doing that. And a couple of those things are feeling like it might get in the way of their performance. And also, the sort of idea that they might be left standing alone. I hope we've addressed some of those thoughts about not standing alone and feeling the love in the community, the football community, and the solidarity when we do that together. But also, the idea that to be a successful professional, you can do both. You don't have to do one or the other. So thank you so much, guys. That's really amazing commentary.
Pippa, thank you. And thank you, Johan and Sofie, and also Juan. Listen, I think one man who we mentioned before, who his performance is not inhibited in any way by what he's doing off the pitch, is Marcus Rashford. I don't see any issue with his performance right now. He's playing out of his skin, as well as making a huge impact in terms of combating child hunger. And this is what, Juan mentioned a little earlier on. Really lovely session, that, guys. Just to recap briefly, Johan, talking about helping someone unlock their positivity, their potential. And that's what sort of helps drive you to start your own journey, I suppose, in this way. Juan talking about how maybe the 1% on its own may not seem much, but unite those 1% with other 1%, and suddenly you're starting, a movement. And that's really what this is. Hearing from Sofie about how she feels the title of a professional footballer has a bigger meaning when she gets involved with things like Common Goal, especially seeing it firsthand with the projects that you've been supporting in Ghana, Sofie. And I think that, anyone who's involved with something like that has to be positively impacted and motivated to make bigger changes. But also just talking about the notion of success as well. And interesting that Juan said that he, I suppose, didn't really like the word success because it's normally got derivations which are associated with money or with just points or trophies or etc. But it's interesting actually how it does have lots of different meanings, and the deeper meanings are what it's really about to be a professional footballer for him, to drive this incredible vehicle that is football to affect positive social change. And interestingly, actually, I remember seeing a really fascinating talk by someone who worked from the FA, who did some work with the Japanese FA. And their versions and derivations of success are very different. Sometimes, it's to do with things like inclusion, education, participation. It's to do with community. It's to do ultimately with respect. And we've all heard the famous tales of Japanese players at major tournaments who make sure that changing room, once they've left it, is as perfectly tidy as when they came in. And that just shows the values that they have. And I think this is ultimately, where we're getting to. We're talking about greater values, really. And there's some awesome takeaways at the end about not being afraid to stand up for your values and to get as much info as possible. I think that's absolutely right, Juan, to be educated, to educate yourself so you know what you're getting into, and then you can stand up and make your voice heard. So I think, I had lots of fantastic takeaways and lots that we can all just think about as we come to the end of day one at WFS Live. Thank you so much for guiding the conversation, Pippa. Thank you, Johan. So thank you, Sofie, and thank you, Juan, and thank you to all of you who've been watching as well here on the Swap Card platform. So that brings us to an end here on day one of WFS Live. It's been a fantastic day, and we've been doing it, as you mentioned before, in collaboration with Common Goal, and it's great to have their support. And I think we've heard so many fascinating insights today. I'm sure you have plenty to reflect on. Oh, but we're not done. Not by a mile, because we're going to be back for tomorrow, day two. We start off with Louis Saha and Lisa Samouche. So, of course, Louis Saha, formerly of Manchester United, like Juan, also Fulham, Everton, many other clubs besides. Lisa Samouche, female freestyle footballer. We're going to finish off with Andrea Radrizzani. And in between times, we've got so many different representatives from different clubs and different organisations. We've got FC Barcelona, Real Betis. We've got Tottenham and Leeds United. We've got the US national women's team and Angel City FC. We've got Coke and Pepsi. We've got Facebook and 11 Sports. We've got it all covered for you. We'll be back for day two of WFS Live. 12:30 CET start, Central European time, whatever time that is, wherever you are with the world. We'll be very, very happy to welcome you again. Have a good night. We'll see you again tomorrow.